Now I'm very excited to welcome back a football guru and highly respected editor and host at the Vegas Sports and Information Network, and Mr. Matt Youmans from vsin.com. You can follow Matt on Twitter at Matt Youmans 247. Matt, lots going on in our world today. You got football around the corner. How the heck you feeling today?
Hey, it's great to be back. Just don't call me a golf guru because the British Open's 2 days into it, and I don't feel like a guru on golf betting right now. But hopefully the football futures turn out much better than the British Open so far. And, it is getting close to lunchtime, too, so we can start talking about food if you want.
Absolutely, man. I mean, some of the best stuff I love listening to you guys over at VSiN when you talk about food. And we both know from our off-air talks that I think our top two might be very close to each other right now. We'll see if anything has changed, but that's what made me think about it. And I got kids that are young, and I'm going through drive-throughs every once in a while here, probably a little more often than the average person because of that. So why not rank our top 10 foods or fast food restaurants? I thought that'd be fun. But before I get into that, though, you got some Midwest roots. I do, obviously. How does living in the Southwest feel during some of these days of summer? And I ask that because us in Phoenix right now, in Chandler, where I'm at, we're like hitting days of 110. I think it's like some of the most we've had in a row.
I love it. Part of the reason I moved out here is I love the intense heat and I love the weather. In Vegas, we have basically same as Phoenix. You have sunshine 340 plus days a year. And I moved out here from Chicago. And the last year I lived there, I got so annoyed because I think from November all the way maybe in the middle of May, I don't think we had one sunny day. Every day was overcast. The weather was crappy. I said, okay, there's no reason to live here anymore. I was covering the Chicago Bulls. Their dynasty was done. And this was the summer of 2000. I said, I'm going to Vegas, and I'm just going to move to the West Coast. I love it. When I hear people complain about the heat, I say, basically, shut the hell up. Because you moved to Phoenix or you moved to Las Vegas, you moved to the desert. What the hell did you expect? Okay, if you don't like it, move to North Dakota. There are plenty of places up there you can live, probably cheaper too. And you won't have to complain about the heat, but then you complain about the cold. I actually love the heat, and I go out and golf, and I'll be golfing Saturday afternoon. It's supposed to be 115, 116. I'm going with a buddy out here to Red Rock Country Club. We're going to play in the middle of the afternoon, teeing off at 2 o'clock. So I love the heat, man. I think it's great after spending, close to the first 30 years of my life in the Midwest. I love it out here.
I completely agree with you, and I kind of felt you were going to say that because I heard that you've golfed in over 120-degree weather. And I don't know if maybe I have a limit on that, but I will say that there's a lot of golf courses down here, and golfing at 2 p.m., you can almost get it for free.
Yeah.
While everybody else is complaining. And the heat is really dry. You put a hat on, you have enough water, obviously, you forget about it. And in this time of year, Matt, my dad, who's from Chicago and lives by Lake Geneva now, tried to rip on me a little bit. He's like, hey, I heard it's hot down there. It's like, hey, Dad, you got 8 months of cold and wet socks, wet and muddy socks. I will take 4 months of dry heat in swimming pools. That's okay to me because the rest is golden anyway, So I have absolutely no problem with the heat at all. And I'm happy I moved too. There's a lot of people that just do not understand that. But I love visiting the Midwest. I was just there over the 4th of July, and it was great. But no problem coming back. And I'm in the middle of a remodel here in case it gets a little loud. So wanted to warn our customers there, or our listeners there. But yeah, man, one of these days I'll get together and golf with you. I am heading up there, so I'll shoot you a message here next month. But anyways, let's get back into some food talk, Matt.
Okay.
I got 10 that I came up with. I already had an idea of what I was doing, but I actually numbered them 10 through 1. And I think we should, see who our top 10 is. Maybe you want to start here, just go through like 10 through 7, and then I'll give you mine, and we'll just kind of fire each way.
All right. Before I do that, I'll tell you, I've got an actual power rating system that I use for fast food restaurants. And I detail that in the column I write every year. And last year I did my fast food. I expanded it to top 50. I was doing top 25, but people loved it so much. It was kind of crazy how it caught on. And I expanded it to the top 50 last year. I do have a power ratings formula, somewhat similar to what I use for college basketball and college football for rating teams, obviously different categories, but there is a system for how I rank these 1 through 50. And these are the 2022 rankings. I can't give you the 2023 ratings yet because I didn't do them. As soon as I get done with my college football work here over the weekend, I'm going to start on the fast food, and I think we're going to announce the top 50 on the Mitch and Paul Follow the Money show on VSiN August 1st or August 2nd, something like that. But I can tell you there is going to be a bit of a shakeup in the top 10 and a couple of new franchises moving into the top 10 for 2023. But as far as last year, 10 through 7, number 10 for me is Raising Cane's. It's all chicken fingers. That's what they specialize in, but they do it well. The sauce is the boss. And Cane's barely cracked the top 10. Number 9, Whataburger out of Texas. Whataburger gets bonus points in my rating system for being open 24 hours. And the only downside to Whataburger is the fries are really bad. Now, I'm not a fry guy. When I go to these places, a lot of times I don't get the combo meal because I don't like to drink Cokes. And I'm not crazy about fries. And one reason I stopped drinking Cokes about 5 years ago is because it's making me way too fat around the waistline, around the belly. And I drink way too much beer and whiskey to be drinking a lot of Cokes too.
It's one or the other, man. You got to pick the better one.
I cut the Cokes out and I drink iced tea or ice water. And believe me, that's actually helped. I can't imagine how fat I'd be if I was still drinking Cokes all the time, getting a combo meal every time I went through a drive-through. But I don't do that. And don't get the fries at Whataburger. Number 8, In-N-Out Burger. This is a hot topic for a lot of people because it's a polarizing subject. Either you love In-N-Out Burger or you hate it. And some people hate it. I like it. I think it's solid. And the key to getting the fries at In-N-Out, you have to ask for the fries to be well done or light well. If you don't ask for that, you might get white, soggy, cold fries, and those are terrible. You might as well just throw them out the window of your car. Number 7, Arby's. And Arby's has got a very diverse menu. And what I like about it, too, it's a gambling franchise. They're not afraid to try new sandwiches, new products. Unfortunately, when they roll one out, kind of like the Wagyu burger, and you like it, then about 4 weeks later, it's gone, and you don't know when it's going to come back. But Arby's does have a great menu. So that's 10, 9, 8, and 7 for me.
Well, that's wonderful choices. One of those is in my top 10 for sure. But I love it. And a couple of those, it's funny, we have Whataburger, and I just never got around to it. So now I'm gonna have to get to one of those. Number 10, Burger King for me. And they've actually fell over the years here. Now I didn't have a exclusive power rating like you did, but I know that Burger King was at least in my top 5 before this. But they're 10, and I do love their fries. And I'm not a huge fry guy, and they're not healthy, but I don't know if they add sugar to it or something, but it's extra like crispy. So I do like that. And the Whopper was always like my favorite with the sauce. I liked it more than the Big Mac, but it's taken a hit over the past few years. And I'm not sure if it's just the quality of the restaurants, but I've getting some really bad Whoppers, bad looking ones too. And the cheese looks different too. And so I'll still keep them at 10, but they're teetering here. They might fall off for me, Matt. Chick-fil-A is number 9, and I'm not as big of a chicken guy as others. I guess I understand why people have Chick-fil-A quite high. I do love their chicken sandwiches, probably the best for chicken sandwiches for me anyway, but their waffle fries are really good, and so it's more unique because bars usually serve waffle fries, and I used to love getting waffle fries back in the day. When I was working as a valet, I'd get them every single day from the bar inside the hotel. But I just one of those my go-to things. Number 8 is Chipotle. I like the fact that they put lime in their rice, and I can taste it when I'm building that monster burrito. But what's nice is you can fatten that burrito as much as you want. You get sour cream, guac, and cheese. And queso. You do all 3 and just load it up. I might even say a little bit low on the rice. Keep the rice there, but don't even put a ton of it in there so it actually can fold up by the time I'm done with it, Matt. At number 7, Filiberto's from here in Arizona. I'm not sure if there's one in Vegas, but Philly B's is delicious when it comes to their carne asada burrito. Their red and green sauce is fantastic. I love the green sauce more, but the quesadillas are monstrous. They have to fold them up. And you can even put some bean in there, and then you dump the sauce on. It's a sloppy way of eating. I would not recommend driving and eating it at all, but it is absolutely delicious, my man. So go ahead with your 6 through your 3.
Filiberto's, I've been there in San Diego. I always get the steak torta. And you're exactly right. You can't eat that in your car, because that's one thing I like to do. I like to eat when I'm driving around. Time management, right? When you're driving from the book, or you're driving to work or whatever. And you can't eat the Filiberto's in your car. It's going to be all over the place. It's going to be all over your shirt. No chance. That's a pro tip, right? Don't eat that in your car. Okay. Number 6, I'm going with a controversial one. It's McDonald's. It's the most popular fast food spot in the world. So a lot of people love to criticize McDonald's, but everybody goes there. Almost everybody goes there. And but I'll tell you this, in my power ratings, the McRib is worth a lot to McDonald's rating. And if they follow through on their threat not to bring the McRib back, McDonald's is going to drop out of the top 10. I've been there. I think I've been to McDonald's 4 times this week already. And I agree with you. I like the Whopper a little bit better than the Big Mac, but the Whopper, the quality of it has slipped. There's no question. And it all depends on which Burger King you go to, too, because some BKs have excellent service and they always give you good food, but it's hit and miss. A lot of Burger Kings, you're going to get just crappy quality of food, and you're going to be disappointed in the Whopper. But McDonald's is pretty consistent pretty much everywhere you go. And I've still got Mickey D's at number 6. Shake Shack, a lot of East Coasters love the burgers. Shake Shack's got really good fries, good burgers, good fry combo, and this has been a big riser in my rankings over the past 3 years. Number 4, Culver's out of Wisconsin. And I hit Culver's when I lived in the Midwest, always liked it, and then kind of lost touch with it because you came out to the West Coast and there weren't any Culver's around. And there's still no Culver's in Nevada. But the menu is exceptional. I mean, you can get, if you want to, you can go and get a fish sandwich that's good. You can get a pot roast sandwich. But the butter burgers are off the charts. And the fries are really good, too, kind of like Shake Shack's fries. If you like ice cream and things like that, Culver's has got everything. Culver's would be a threat to be number 1 on my list. I'm really irritated this place is not in Nevada. I just went to Bullhead City, Arizona to Culver's a few weeks ago. It's so good. I would probably eat there 5 times a week if they had it in Vegas, but they don't. So 6 McDonald's, 5 Shake Shack, 4 Culver's, and then 3 is Chick-fil-A on my list. I was never a big chicken guy, but about, I'm going to say 7 or 8 years ago, this is probably too much information. I had diverticulitis, lower back and sides were really sore, and I couldn't even sit in my office chair for more than 10 minutes. The pain was just killing me. I didn't know what it was, and I went to the doctor, and it turned out to be diverticulitis. And she said, "What do you eat? What's in your diet?" And I said, "Well, hamburgers, steak, hot dogs, Italian sausage, pepperoni and sausage pizza, blah, blah, blah." And she goes, "That's it? That's why you don't eat any fish? You don't eat any chicken?" I said, "No, not really. It's been that way pretty much my whole life." And she said, "Okay, for the next 21 days, you got to take these antibiotics, and you can't eat any red meat. It's got to be all chicken, all fish." At that point, the pain was so bad, I said, "Okay, I'll do whatever if this will go away." So I did it. After about 14 days, the pain went away. I jumped back. I started eating burgers again. But I have started to work more chicken, fish, things like that in there occasionally, just so that diverticulitis never comes back, because, man, that sucked. Yeah. I can tell you that. And that's why Chick-fil-A has been a riser on my list, because if you're looking for a good chicken sandwich, I don't feel like there's a lot of places you can go. Wendy's has got a good chicken sandwich, a spicy chicken, and Chick-fil-A. Yeah. And outside of that, not a whole lot of options. I don't like the chicken sandwiches at McDonald's or Burger King or most places like that, but that's kind of why Raising Cane's and Chick-fil-A are in my top 10 now.
No, that makes total sense. And absolutely, Culver's, you will be hearing from me in a little bit here about that. Number 6 is Taco Bell. And you know, I feel dirty saying it, but I mean, they were my go-to after drinking some beers and playing volleyball when I was younger in my 20s. Like we had some bar leagues, it was fun. About 11, 12 o'clock, you have, pretty much borderline to the point one, not quite there, but I don't know. I never really measured, but I always go through the drive-through, grab my Taco Bell, the chicken burritos, but they just have so much to offer. I love the double-decker taco still, and I make it the Supreme, of course, but it's just something I love about it. And the Mexican pizza, they just have a lot to offer, and it's easy to drive with Taco Bell. I get the burritos, munch, driving very simple, not even spilling on yourself. I love that because we just did talk about driving food, so wanted to mention that. Number 5, I put Barrows, and I'm not even sure if this is fast food, but they whip up my pizzas really quick. And I'm talking like these pizzas are quality pizzas. It's not Little Caesars. It's not Domino's. It is like a delicious pizza, thick sausage, and they just do a fantastic job making it. And it's not just that. Their wings, and I've been to Buffalo, and I've eaten at Anchor Bar, the original place of where Buffalo wings came from. These are the closest that I've ever had to the taste of the Anchor Bar, and I get them like almost every week. Clearly, we have one pretty close to our house, so I had to throw Barrows on there. I'm not even sure if that qualifies, but I also see a lot of people put ice cream points in for fast food. I took away ice cream points, Matt. Number 4, Jersey Mike's subs, and this has been growing on me the last two or 3 years, but I mean, it's really delicious. I think they're the best subs in the business, and they're 7.5 inches or 15 inches. It's kind of perfect. It's like the foot longs at Subway is too long, but the 6 inches is too short. Well, this one's a little bit bigger than that, so I can easily make 2 meals or a meal out of it. They're customizable, and the amount of savory options is great. The app, Matt, the app is fantastic because you just click. It's so customizable and so user friendly. You're literally making your own sub, but kind of using the principles of their numbers 1 through, I believe, 15 or 20 they have. And number 3, In-N-Out Burger. Like you said, I'm not a fan of the fries, but the only way I'll have the fries is the animal fries because they'll dump their sauce on there and stuff, and really, and the cheese and sprucing them up. And that's the only way I can eat their fries and like it. I don't like their fries. And to be honest with you, Five Guys was probably my 11th, but they didn't quite make it. I'm not a big fan of their fries either. But what I will say is there's nothing to me that feels more American for some reason than In-N-Out Burger. And I know McDonald's was the first fast food, and that's very American as well. My kids love McDonald's. My kids told me to put McDonald's number 1, Matt, and I love the fillet of fish there. That's my favorite at McDonald's, but I could see the argument for it. But In-N-Out Burger is like America to me, and when I'm there, I love going. When I'm going to San Diego, I always stop there in Yuma at In-N-Out Burger and eat. It's great. Plus, we have quite a few of them down here, and their sauce is amazing. Let's go with your number 2, and then your number 1.
Yeah, number 2 is Freddy's Steak Burgers. And Steak and Shake used to be in this spot for me, but Steak and Shake's kind of gone kind of downhill. Closed a lot of franchises, closed a lot of locations across the country, and the quality of Steak and Shake just not what it used to be. It's still my top 20, but Freddy's Steak Burgers has taken over. And excellent burgers. The rest of the menu, so-so. I don't highly recommend it, but in terms of the steak burgers and the ice cream, Freddy's is outstanding, and might be dropping a spot or 2 this year. We'll see, but Freddy's is what Steak and Shake used to be. And Portillo's is the top dog on my list. Chicago street food, Italian beef sandwiches, Italian beef and sausage, Chicago dogs, everything. When we went there last year in Anaheim, I think it was it was right outside Anaheim. We flew over to Orange County Airport. Mitch Moss, Paul Howard, and I. And Mitch and Paul had never been to Portillo's. And within 5 minutes, we got all sorts of food on the table, just stacked up everywhere. And Paul Howard's over there making noises like he's got an orgasm. And I said, "What? Hey, settle down over there." And he's like, "A plus. This place is awesome." And he loved the chocolate cake shake, and also, I mean, there's nothing that's poor at Portillo's. It's outstanding all the way around. And when I lived in Chicago, I ate there almost every day, like 5 days a week. And I'm waiting for it to come to Nevada too, a lot like Culver's. But I think right now in 2023, the top two spots are Portillo's and Culver's. It's kind of a duel. And one of these places has got to be the first into Nevada, right? It's always like, which major professional sports league is going to be the first one into Las Vegas is going to be the biggest success? And it was the NHL.
Yeah.
Which franchise is going to be the first into Nevada, Portillo's or Culver's? Hopefully they both get here soon enough, because those are probably the top two on my list right now.
That's got to be brutal living where your top two isn't at right now, Matt.
Well, you know what? I'll tell you what, it makes it that much better, though, when you go there. It's kind of like I say, most married guys only want to be married 2 days a week. And your best relationships, a lot of times your best relationships are long-term relationships, right? Where you see the girl maybe once a month for a few days, because when you see each other for those few days, it's great.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like Portillo's and Culver's when you haven't been there in so long, because you can't go here every day. It's awesome when you go there, and it's even that much better. I don't think it would be any worse if it's here all the time, but you do appreciate it a lot more when you only get it occasionally outside the state.
Oh, I agree. It's funny because we have a swimming pool and it's beautiful. I have a pool bar and everything. I don't use it nearly as much as I should. It's like, if I didn't have it, I'd be dying to go in it. It's just one of those situations. I totally agree with you. And great choices. And I have the same top two. Sounds like you're coming. I had to put Portillo's at 2. Maybe it's because I lived more of my life in Wisconsin than Chicago when I was young, even though I'm a Bears fan and all that. I retained that when we did move to the border town of from Bristol. But Portillo's, sweet home Chicago, man. I mean, best Polish dogs in the land. That's my go-to one is Polish dogs, but the whole freaking menu is amazing. I love their chicken and fish sandwiches, the beef, roast beef, Italian beef is fantastic. You can also get that with Italian sausage. You can have the beef croissant with cheese. And if you really are cutting calories, you just get the bowl, sausage and beef in the bowl, and they got the peppers and everything. So you can do that. There's options for that. The burgers and ribs, there's ribs on the menu. There's burgers on the menu. And it's just everything they make is great. But like you already mentioned it, the chocolate cake shake, that just makes you want to be a kid again, man. I mean, it is just so sweet and it's so delicious. two just different types of chocolate just hitting you, the ice cream and the cake. I mean, it's ridiculous. I get it on my birthday, man. It's just so good. So I've been really fighting with this being my number one, but I had to move it to Culver's, man, because the cheese curds. I mean, not too many places have cheese curds, and I'm a massive fan of cheese curds. Being from Madison, going to school in Madison, and we used to get them all the time whenever we went to the bars. And the Butter Burger Bacon Deluxe, man, that's my go-to right there. And they have great fish options. The French fries are the jagged ones, and I love the jagged fries. Just the fact that they have cheese curds. The first place we stopped when I got off the plane on July 1st was the Culver's in Oshkosh on the way up to Minocqua. I stopped there immediately, and I stopped to eat. I did not want to drive and eat. I just stopped, made the kids eat back. We stayed in. I didn't want to bring those kids into the restaurant, but we ate in the car. And the frozen custard desserts. If you haven't seen the desserts there, go to the website right now. Check out the amount of options they have for this frozen.
I don't know if you can hear me, but your screen froze up on me. I can't. I'm not hearing you. You still there?
Lost you there, buddy. Looks like with all my with all the construction and heat, the internet went out, so I transitioned to cellular. So we are back.
Okay.
You hear me? Yeah, the internet completely went out in my house. So I am going off the towers now. So let's. So as I was finishing, I didn't hear what you said, but yeah, Culver's is my number one.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Culver's, Portillo's, like you said, 1-2 for me. It's it's interesting how into this some people get. They have very strong opinions on one place or another. I don't know how you could ever dislike. I don't know how you could ever dislike Culver's or Portillo's. So, if you don't like one of those two places, something's wrong with you, right? That's pretty much what I would say.
That's exactly, and let's end it with that. I mean, we just spent half our show talking about it, but I think it was worth it. It was a great discussion, and hopefully, I definitely got some ideas from you to a couple places. The Shake Shack is another one I haven't been to yet, but that's on my list as well. Down here in Arizona, we're blessed to have many Portillos. I remember it first came when the Cubs built Sloan, right? When they built Sloan, I was like, "Oh, Portillos is coming! Holy cow! It's like what a perfect match." They're like 5 minutes from each other too. I think that was on purpose, but now there's Portillos everywhere. But let's get into some NFL, my man. Talk a little bit, just from a high level from each division here. The NFL or NFC North, we can start with, being that you're from Chicago, I'm from there. You got the Bears at 7.5, the Packers at 7.5, the Vikings at 8.5 wins, and the Lions at 9.5 wins. Anything you like in the NFC North?
Yeah, I'm a little bit of bad news for you. I'm probably not going to talk as much about football as I would have, but we talked so much about food. I'm so hungry now. I can't wait to go eat. So I'll try to analyze these. I'll try to analyze these as much as I can, but man, I'm thinking about lunch. So I did play the Packers over. I played the Packers over 7.5. And going into all my research for the VSiN NFL guide, you got an idea what you like, but when I really dig into the research, I started to like the Packers more and more. And then you do some critical thinking about it, and you think, well, most people are going to write off the Packers because Aaron Rodgers is gone now. Packers have no chance. Well, I'm thinking differently, and I always feel like to be a winning NFL bettor, you got to think contrarian more often than not, because if you're putting out plays that are popular with the public, you're probably not going to do too well. So I'm not trying to win a popularity contest with some of these win totals and some of these plays I've got in week one, but I do like the Packers over 7.5 and minus 105. I think I would say about 3 years ago, Brian Gutekunst, too, I'm not crazy about, Packers GM. He did start planning for a new era, and I think he was trying to set Jordan Love, the quarterback from Utah State, trying to set him up to succeed. And I think what the Packers have done here is put him in a pretty good situation. I'm going to say that Gutekunst and Matt LaFleur have drafted a total of 8 wide receivers and tight ends in the past 2 drafts. So I think Jordan Love's going to lean on young receivers, Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed. You got tight ends, Luke Musgrave, Tucker Kraft. But the key to the Packers offense is going to be the power running attack. Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon going to be more of a focus. And I think that's going to help out Love considerably if this is one of the top rushing offenses in the NFL, and it might be the number 1 rushing offense. Last year, Packers averaged 124.3 yards per game on the ground. If David Bakhtiari, the left tackle, is healthy, it's only going to be a plus. I'm not really counting on that, but I think it's a solid line with Elton Jenkins, John Runyon, among others. The problem here could be, and a year ago, I was really hyping up the Eagles on pretty much every show I did. And every show, the host would go, "Oh, no, not the Eagles. I don't like Jalen Hurts. Oh, no." And I did like Hurts. I thought he was going to have a breakout year. I probably did 50 shows last year, and nobody liked the Eagles. Nobody liked Hurts. So that's fine. I'm not saying Jordan Love's going to be Jalen Hurts, but the Packers have done a pretty good job of putting the right pieces around him and giving him a chance to succeed this year. So if Love was worth that first-round pick, I think the Packers got a chance to be pretty good. The defense got to get a lot better at stopping the run. But again, 8 of the last 9 years, the first-round draft pick's been a defensive player. And you got a lot of young talent over there. If that talent comes together, the Packers can be good enough on defense. I really think the power running game is going to be the key to turning this around. And who knows, maybe Aaron Rodgers is going to be addition by subtraction in the locker room, brings this team a little bit closer together. I know that a lot of Packers fans, and even just most of us in general, got really tired of Aaron Rodgers' diva act in Green Bay. And, it was constant drama. It was always a soap opera. It was always about Aaron Rodgers, me. Can I win an MVP? And then he sucked in the playoffs. And he wasn't that good last year. He threw 12 interceptions. That was his highest total since 2008. Yeah. I think there's a chance here that the Packers surprise a lot of people. And, to get over a win total of 7.5 in a division that's not that strong, it's not asking too much. So I did bet the Packers over 7.5, and I took a shot, like a half-unit bet on the Packers to win the NFC North at 5-1 odds.
And those are great odds, and no disagreement here. And it's funny, as a Bears fan, I've been saying Aaron Rodgers is about himself for the last 10, 12, 15 years. And Packer fans would be like, "Oh, you're just a Bears fan." It's like, no. I think that he's got issues. He's definitely got issues, and it kind of turned out to now they're seeing how much drama the guy has. So I think it was a little bit too much of an overreaction to put them ahead of the Bears, who only won 3 games, and I don't know, maybe call it 3.5. If they tanked the last game, they were going to lose anyway, probably, because I think the Vikings kind of weren't ready to play. The Bears is probably going to be the one I would lean to the under strongly. I'm going to see if I can get an 8. And as a Bears fan, it sucks to say that, but this is just too high of an expectation the very first year here with this, with the big changes that finally happened. It's you still got the quarterback there, but I'm not even sure if Eberflus is good yet. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I'm not saying he's bad. I just don't know. Yeah, I don't know how good they really are. So we'll find out about him in pace a little bit. But the Vikings, man, their Pythagorean win was like 8, but below 8.5 last year. It's like they won 13 games. They're the biggest overachievers out of anybody. I'm looking to fade them. It looks like the market, right away has the 8.5, so they kind of know what's up. But I would only look under with them. I don't think they did anything to fix their defense. They went and drafted Jordan Addison, and that replaces Thielen, but they didn't use Thielen properly last year. So it's just they didn't focus on what was important there. So I could definitely see a team, if it's not the Lions, who needs to improve their defense, it'd be the Packers. Let's move on to NFC South then. Who do you have in the South, or do you have any plays in the South?
Just a footnote on what you said. I also am leaning Bears under 7.5. If you can find an 8, let me know, because I'll bet under 8 for sure. The Bears lost their final 10 games to finish 3-14. They were 0-6 in the division, and their defense was last in the NFL in scoring, 27.2 points a game, last in sacks with 20, 31st in rushing. There's a lot of areas the Bears need to improve, and I like the Bears under as well. I just have not bet that yet, but I've got my eye on it. I also lean Vikings under, even though there's been a major adjustment in that win total, and I'm not completely sold on the Lions, who haven't won that division, by the way, since it was in 1993 when it was the NFC Central. All right, so let's go to the South. I like the Falcons a little bit. I like the Panthers a little bit. I don't like the Buccaneers. There's not much to like about the Buccaneers, but I found this funny. I'm not going to throw a bunch of numbers at you about this division because I'm still kind of trying to decide what I want to do here. But I was watching an ESPN show, and the analyst said it's a no-brainer to pick the Saints to win the division. And I love to hear stuff like that when I hear a square say something like that, because my opinion is already that the Saints are not a no-brainer to win the division. Dennis Allen sucks as a head coach. Yeah. Derek Carr was terrible last year for the Raiders. If you think Derek Carr is going to be the savior, you're probably wrong. If you watched the Raiders-Saints game at the Superdome last year, Derek Carr never got the Raiders offense past midfield. That was the worst game I've ever seen him play. And now that guy's going to march into New Orleans and be the savior for the Saints. I'm not really a Derek Carr guy. I thought he was really bad last year. And Dennis Allen's got a lot to prove as a coach. So if you think that team's going to dominate that division, I doubt it. I do think the Falcons are a bit of a sleeper. I like a lot of the moves they made in the offseason. Good draft. Falcons overachieved last year, too. And then Bryce Young is going to make a difference with the Carolina Panthers because he's a smart quarterback. He's not going to turn the ball over. And I think the Panthers, they got a lot of holes on that team, so I'm not really going to hype them up and predict the division. I haven't bet that yet, but I'm keeping an eye on the Panthers because I think they got a chance to be good. But the Saints are not my no-brainer pick to win that division. Let's put it that way.
Well, that's for dang sure. I was on the Saints last year, and then watching them crumble against Tampa at the very end was all Allen. And I was like, I started realizing that this is not the Sean Payton team. This is not, and it's just going to get worse. And it bugged me because I had a massive number on them last year. I was like, seriously? And that division was so up for the taking, and they had the most talent anyway, but drove me nuts. I agree with you on the Falcons. I took them at plus 180 to make the playoffs, Matt. And that was at BetMGM. I mean, I don't even know if that number's still hanging there, but I mean, I couldn't believe I was getting that number in this division when I know that Ritter's not proven, but at least played some games where you have the Bucs that has Baker Mayfield. You got the Panthers that has a brand new quarterback. You have Derek Carr to the Saints, and that could only just, like you said, turn into an absolute mess. I was shocked I got plus 180. Now they've forced that 7 teams and the NFC make the playoffs. I was like, wow, that's a great number. So I agree with you. Absolutely. The Falcons have an 8.5 win total. I don't even need to bet that. I think they get to 9 wins. They might be in the playoffs in an NFC that has the away game at the AFC. So the NFC on average, 8 home games, 9 away. So I think they can get to 9. They could be worthy of that wild card, Matt. Plus the schedule. They have the easiest schedule. Them and the Saints actually have the easiest schedule. I'm picking the Falcons. I'm with you. Let's move on to the NFC East. Anything you like there?
Well, last year I was wrong about the Cowboys. I actually liked them under. And like I said, I like the Eagles to win that division. So I was right about the Eagles. I got them at plus 180. So that was a positive. But the Cowboys had a better year than I expected. A lot of it was their defense. It was, I would say, I don't want to say a dominant defense, but it was probably one of the NFL's top 5 defenses. And that's why the Cowboys were better. I'm still a little bit skeptical about Cowboys this year because, I always compare Mike McCarthy to like Skipper. Remember the Gilligan's Island and the Skipper and the Gilligan can never get things right. Kellen Moore and Mike McCarthy were like the Skipper and Gilligan. Now the Skipper's calling plays for the Cowboys. And if you watch Mike McCarthy press conferences, you listen to him talk, you're never that impressed. It's almost like you just stumbled out of the buffet and you hadn't really looked at watched the film yet or, looked at the playbook. I don't think calling plays for the Cowboys is going to be something that helps Mike McCarthy keep his job. I still think it's going to backfire a little bit. And Kellen Moore, in fact, I like his move to the Chargers because they were way too conservative on offense. And that downfield vertical passing game that Kellen Moore likes to employ, I think is going to be a big plus for the Chargers. The Cowboys, I'm just kind of holding out. I'm not going to be negative about them, kind of like I was last year at this time. I still think the Eagles are the best team in the division. The Giants making me pause a little bit here because of the Saquon Barkley situation. Everybody can say what they want about running backs being devalued. But Saquon Barkley is really, really important to that Giants offense. This is a guy who had 90 receptions as a rookie. He had 57 receptions last year. He's a big part of the passing game and a big part of Daniel Jones' development. Daniel Jones is a $40 million a year quarterback. Without Saquon Barkley, I'm not sure he's worth half that. And I think Brian Dable and Daniel Jones are going to find that if they don't get Saquon in the camp and get him happy and get him on the field, the life is going to be tough for the Giants offense. Offensive line's better. I think there are a lot of pieces there where the Giants could be pretty good. But without Saquon Barkley, I would be betting the Giants under. So I'm going to keep an eye on that situation. I think it would be wise for Barkley to take the franchise tag, $10.1 million, because this money for running backs drying up. Take the 10.1, try to play yourself into a long-term contract. We saw with Le'Veon Bell in Pittsburgh, if you set out a season as a running back, it could blow up in your face. So that situation's interesting. And the Washington Commanders, goodbye, good riddance to Daniel Snyder. It's great that he's gone. I don't know if there's a handicapping angle there. If it's going to lift a black cloud over this team, they're going to play better. I still think the quarterback questions with the Commanders are major, and there's a lot to answer there. So as of right now, I don't have a play in this division. The Eagles' win total's been jacked up so much last year. You could have got it at 8.5 on the opener, and you're not going to get that type of value with the Eagles this year. So I still like the Eagles to win the division, but I have not made any futures bets. I do have a bet on week 1 involving a couple NFC East teams. I took the Giants +3 against the Cowboys.
Okay.
And if Saquon Barkley doesn't play, if it looks like he's not going to play, I might have to find a way to get off that bet because I'm not going to like the Giants if Barkley's not going to be on the field in week 1. So it's another thing I've got to keep an eye on. But yeah, I think I've got 5 plays in week 1. That's one of them. Giants +3, home dogs. But the Barkley situation does concern me.
Oh, for sure. I mean, if he's not playing, you can get creative. I never tease 3-3 unless I'm getting out of a bet. That's only the way I would, and bet him with something else that you're going to tease anyway. That's a possibility on the Cowboys side to make that middle. But it's I made a bet that I kind of regret a little bit, but I'm still kind of mentally sticking with it. I bet the Commanders over, and it was over 6.5. And my thoughts were that, Dan Snyder's gone and everyone's just hating them. The public hates them. I think it's kind of a contrarian look to me, but we don't know how good their quarterback's going to be. We don't, but I will say that Sam Howell was, before he lost everybody at North Carolina, and I mean everybody to the draft, he had to play that one more year and he looked bad because he didn't have anybody. Mm-hmm. Then he plays that last game against the Cowboys, and you can say that the Cowboys weren't really into the game, but McCarthy said he wasn't tanking that game. It's hard to know what was true, and I actually did bet the Commanders that game. But I just think that with Rivera there, he's on a coaching year that has to save his job. I seen him be doubted and do well before. He was a Bears DC for a while too. I think there's a shot that they can go over, and I see the Giants could take a step back. So we'll see. In this one. Now, last year I did hit the Eagles and the Cowboys both over their win totals, but I only bet them early, and I bet them because they had that super easy schedule last year. Now I'm looking under in the Cowboys. I'm looking under, and I think that would be a solid play. Find a 10 because that's where I got mine at. I don't think it's out there right now, but I would find 10 because I just don't see the Cowboys at 11. I see them 10 at the highest, losing their offensive coordinator. And everything you said about McCarthy, you nailed it. It looks like he got to have a buffet and has no idea what he's talking about. So, agreed. NFC West. So, Cardinals are at 4.5, Rams at 6.5, Seattle's at 8.5, and Niners are at 10.5.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot for you here. I'm skeptical about San Francisco because you lose Mike McGlinchey off the offensive line. And, there's plenty of skill position talent there around the quarterback, but who's the quarterback? You got quarterbacks coming off injuries. I still think we're giving Kyle Shanahan too much credit, calling him a boy genius all the time. He's played a big role in blowing 2 Super Bowls. He traded a bunch of assets up to the number 2 pick in the draft to take Trey Lance, and here we are 2 years later, and he doesn't even know if Trey Lance can be his quarterback. And, Brock Purdy looks like he's going to be the guy coming off a serious injury, and Trey Lance also coming off an injury, and you got Sam Darnold, the number 3 quarterback. You also got a new defensive coordinator because D'Amico Ryans went to Houston to take the top job. There's a few changes here with the 49ers. I can see why the win totals come down a little bit on San Francisco because I like it under. I didn't get to it early, so I'm not going to bet it now. But I am going to fade the Niners. I'm fading the 49ers in week 1. I'm taking the Steelers as home dogs in that game. And if you remember last year, San Francisco played on the road at Chicago in week 1 and lost that game 19-10. I think the 49ers can lose on the road in week 1 again at Pittsburgh. And that's another home dog I like in week 1. So I'm leaning towards the Seahawks and over the win total, but I can't quite get there on that play. It seems a little public. I know a lot of people who like it. The Rams could be really bad. We all know what the Cardinals are. But as of right now, the only bet I've got and the only bet I got in my pocket is Pittsburgh as a home dog getting 3 in week 1.
Okay. The Rams I have a lot of, and I that was my first win total bet. I think it was in March. I took under 7.5 at flat money on the Rams. It was plus 100. That was, and then I found them at under 7.5 couple months later, maybe a month and a half, 2 ago, at minus 145, and I took it again because I found a 6.5 at flat. So I took a 6.5 over. So I'm really hoping for a 7, but even if I don't get the 7, I'm still cashing, as long as they don't hit 8 games. And I just think them winning 8 games is quite unrealistic with what they really have going on. Heck, they have drama with their quarterback now because Matt Stafford's not redoing things. Yeah. Let me help you a little bit with Seattle over. I like Seattle over just partly because this division is taking a big hit. And everything you just said about the Niners is true. I wasn't impressed with Purdy because when he came in, he had the Cardinals twice. I think they had the Giants, but really overrated teams. They had to kick part of their schedule, all 6 or 7 of those games that he played. And then he plays Dallas at home, and he got to 19 points, but it was the defense that won him that game. You know that. Sure. It wasn't so much. 19, they have a mess at quarterback. I do believe in Shanahan a lot as a coach, so I still think he's a great coach. Maybe not a Super Bowl coach, but he knows how to win. But I'm just not seeing it with the quarterback. And I think they did take some big hits, like you said, with McGlinchey. So I think Seattle does get over the 8.5. And I did play that earlier this year. And I love the moves they made. I first hated the Smith and the Jigba pick, but when I found out that they got Devin Witherspoon, best cornerback in the draft, edge Derek Hall. They got a lot of guys, and they made some great moves, getting Draymond Jones, Julian Love, Jaron Reed, Bobby Wagner back, Devin Bush. They made great moves in the offseason. So I'm with you on that one. I like Seattle over. Let's move on to the AFC North. We'll start with the Steelers at 8.5, Browns 8.5, Ravens 9.5, Bengals 11.5.
Hey, to follow up on your point too, I might get there on the Seahawks over the win total. I do think they've had a great offseason, love their draft. And I'm not saying Shanahan is a poor coach. I think he's a really sharp play caller and a good coach, but it gets overlooked too often that he played a big role in blowing 2 Super Bowls. He actually blew the NFC Championship game with his play calling, didn't get the ball to Deebo Samuel in the fourth quarter when the Rams got there and won a Super Bowl. And how can you trade that much to get up to the number 2 pick and take Trey Lance and then all of a sudden say, well, Trey Lance not as good as we thought he was? You had a lot of time to evaluate those quarterbacks. If you're a quarterback whisperer or some sort of offensive wizard, you got to know what you're trading up to get at the number 2 pick. So I don't think he gets criticized enough for that at this point. As far as the AFC North, this is the first time in my life I've picked the Cincinnati Bengals to win the Super Bowl. And I thought, so when we do the VSiN NFL betting guide, we got a panel of like 20 people who picked their division winners, playoff teams, Super Bowl winners. And I got into the file, and I was the first one to make the picks. So I go through it, and I said, okay, I'm going to take the Bengals here. I'm going to go off the grid a little bit. Then when everybody else got done making their picks, there was like 16 out of 20 had the Bengals going to the Super Bowl.
You thought you were the lone one.
I thought I was going to be a little bit contrarian with that Cincinnati pick, and not the case. I do love the Bengals. I thought they should have beat the Chiefs in Kansas City in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I thought they were going to beat the Bills on that Monday night when you had the unfortunate injury situation early and they had to cancel that Monday night against the Bills. I thought the Bengals were playing really good football, and they've had a good offseason too. I thought the Bengals had an excellent draft. They put more pieces around Joe Burrow, and I think this is the best team in the best division in football for the most part. I mean, the AFC East is really good too, but I'm going to go with the AFC North as the best division. So I like the Bengals the best. I think the Ravens probably rank slightly ahead of the Steelers. I think a lot of people are maybe underrating the Steelers a little bit at this point. Like I said, I like them at week 1 as home dogs to the 49ers, catching 3. And, I'm just not on board with the Browns yet, probably because I've just been in such a negative frame of mind about Deshaun Watson the past couple of years. I can't jump on board with the Browns until I see Watson actually start to play a lot better. I mean, it's obvious the guy's been a head case. And last year when he came back, he wasn't ready to play. I don't know if he's going to be a different guy this year or not. There are a lot of aspects to the Browns I like, but I can't get there yet because of Watson. So that's kind of my take on that division so far.
So I'm attacking this division a little differently, and I was on the Bengals to win it last year. I was able to get that, and obviously the whole Lamar mess last year helped a little. I'm taking this. I took the Steelers at 6.5 to 1 to win the division, and I split it with the Ravens at, I think, plus 300, something like that. And I'm just playing against the Bengals for the division. I think the Bengals still can definitely get the playoffs or win the division. Of course, they're the favorites. I mean, but the reason I took it is because I thought there was some value on that just based upon the Bengals having the first place schedule. Now that they reworked the deal with Mixon and stuff, it makes me kind of like, am I having buyer's remorse here? I don't know. I like Joe Burrow a lot, and I'm still considering a decent sized play for him for MVP. I play one person for MVP, and I'm thinking it's Joe Burrow because you know what? If he does blow through this division, he's next. He's next. He's the next guy up, and I just don't like Zach Taylor. And that's I think here's the thing. That Ravens game in the playoffs without a quarterback, they should have lost that game. I mean, There was a 14-point swing on that, and it was Zach Taylor not using Mixon. It's like, dude, what are you doing? He really frustrates me, and so I thought, maybe I can attack it both ways, but I love Joe Burrow. I think he's a top 3, maybe top 2 quarterback in the league right now. And he's going to push Mahomes for sure. So I'm torn on the Bengals a little bit, but I thought playing it 2 ways, and I completely disagree or agree with you against Deshaun Watson. I don't like the Browns. I don't like the Browns coach. I don't like anything about the Browns. So they're more of a fade team for me. AFC South here. So we will have slight disagreement here, but I know that team you're on, and I thought they just made a really good move.
You're breaking up a little bit. You still?
Oh, no problem. AFC South. Colts 6.5, Texans 6.5, Titans 7.5, Jags 9.5. Might be some disagreement here.
To follow again what you said on the AFC North, I don't like Zach Taylor either, and there's a lot of coaches I don't like. So sometimes I have to get past that. Sometimes I focus on the quarterback and the personnel, even though I don't like the coach. I mean, there's a lot of bad coaches in the league. AFC South, definitely taking a contrarian view here. I think the Jaguars are the most overrated team in the betting market. We've seen the market come down a little bit. Now, I bet the Jags under 10 plus 105. And just about 5 days ago, I found another Vegas book that's got 10.5 on the Jaguars. I had to lay more juice. I don't like it, but I played under 10.5 minus 150. Don't forget the Jaguars were 4-8 before they won 5 in a row last year to get to 9-8 just to get into the playoffs. In Week 18, they had to beat Josh Dobbs, a practice squad quarterback for the Titans. And without the strip sack and the fumble, they probably would have lost that game at home in Week 18. I think the Jaguars being way overrated here. They got some potential problems that could be really big on their offensive line. They got a bunch of underachievers on the defensive line, and their secondary's got a bunch of holes in it. Yeah, they've got some Trevor Lawrence and some skill position guys that are going to excite the public, but that's what I like because I think most people handicap and they focus on the skill position players. I'm looking at the 2 lines and the secondary, and there's a lot I don't like about this team. Jaguars were down 27-0 at home in the playoff game to the Chargers for a reason. They're not that good. And, they came back and won the game, but that's what the Chargers do. So even when the Chargers were up 27-0, I was on a show on BSN. I said, if there's one team in the world that can blow this lead, it's the Chargers. And they actually did it. So I just watched the replay of the game on NFL Network this afternoon. It's comical how bad how bad the Chargers can be sometimes. Coaching decisions and just mistakes. And
I remember where I was at when I watched the game. I remember it. I remember I was at a friend's pool party, and I was like, are you kidding me? Yelling.
Yeah, I know. So I was talking about my Jaguars under win total bets on Follow the Money show on VSiN, and Paul Howard said, "You love the Titans." No, not necessarily. You can't perceive it that way. I don't love the Titans, but I'm fading the Jaguars, so I got to like somebody in that division. So I do like Mike Vrabel as an underdog coach. He's better as a dog. He's got the number 1 run defense in the NFL. There are some definite things you got to like about the Jaguars. And now this DeAndre Hopkins signing, I was hoping that would happen. And it's not going to be a big deal. It's not going to move the needle in the futures really. But the Titans got Treylon Burks from Arkansas, second-year wide receiver. I like him. But it's going to definitely help to have a veteran out there on the field and off. DeAndre Hopkins can take some attention away from some of those younger receivers. And I think he's going to be big in this offense for Ryan Tannehill. And that's who I want to be the quarterback. I think this is Tannehill's last dance in Nashville. He's in his contract year. I expect him to play well. It's a good offensive line. You got Peter Skoronski from Northwestern. I thought he was the best run blocker in the draft. They're still going to run the ball with Tannehill, who was banged up last year. They can throw it a little bit, and the defense is legit. I like this Tennessee defense a lot. Don't forget that 2 years ago, the number one seed in the AFC was the Tennessee Titans. It was not the Chiefs. It was not the Bills. It was the Titans. Now they choked in the playoffs, but we're not talking about the playoffs. I got Titans over 7.5 plus 110. I bet the Titans are 4-1 to win the division for like a half unit. Then I found plus 425. I bet another half unit on it. And then I found plus 450 last week at the South Point, and I bet another half unit. So I got 1.5 units on the Titans to win the AFC South, and the Titans over the win total and the Jaguars under. And also in week 1, I played the Titans plus 3.5 at the Saints and the Colts plus 4 against the Jaguars. So I've actually got a bunch of plays here for the AFC South. And a lot of stuff I like in this division. I'm going to go back to, let's see, I'm looking at some of the numbers here.
Well,
the Jacksonville defense allowed 6,006 total yards. What's that?
I love that 3.5 versus the Saints.
What's that?
You kidding me? I love that 3.5 you bet versus the Saints. That's a great number. Plus 3.5.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, there's a lot of numbers. A lot of numbers I can throw at you here, but the Jacksonville defense was 24th in the league in yards allowed, 6,006 yards allowed. I don't think it's better. I don't think this defense is any better. They've had kind of a strange offseason. They lost one of their best offensive linemen. Tennessee, number 1 run defense in the league. Secondary needs a little bit better, be a little bit stronger. But, hey, this is not a sexy team. I know it's not going to be a popular pick, but I'm going to go with Vrabel, the guy who can grind out ugly wins and overachieve. And I'll go with the Titans here in this division.
What are the Titans to win the conference? Because
I didn't bet that. I just bet them to win the division. Like I said, they could get to the playoffs and lose their first game. I don't know.
But their first game might not be until after the bye. Because the reason I say that is because there's a chance, and this is why I bet the Jaguars a while ago. To win the conference, because I thought it's a very hedgeable bet if they can get the number 1 seed. Now, the way I looked at it was their schedule is pretty easy. I know the Jaguars have a first place schedule, so they do get Kansas City. You know, they do get the tougher teams like Buffalo. But I feel that you're going to get a hell of a lot of value if you're right about the Titans, because I just feel that they're going to have that part of the schedule too. They're
sure.
I think their schedule ranks. I have to pull up the numbers here, and I'm having bad internet, as you know. But I think that their schedule ranks one of the easiest according to Vegas win totals in the league. And I know that the Jaguars will have it easier than the Chiefs, especially the Chiefs have a harder division. They're going to have it easier than the Bengals, and they're going to have it easier than the Bills, in my opinion. So I think you should think about when betting them for conference, because I went that with the Jags because I like Trevor Lawrence, and this feels like that Eagles team that Doug Peterson coached in, what was it, 18 when they beat the Patriots? Was it 17, 18, one of those years? Can't remember exactly, but it just kind of felt like that. But I don't disagree with anything you said there, and I thought the DeAndre Hopkins pick, Tannehill is gone, but you're right, he might be going out swinging, and it's almost like he was so disrespected, taking away A.J. Brown, and then they draft Levis in the second round, which was interesting. I almost feel like they're trying to make amends with him. I don't know, but they did get him in the second, but I didn't like Levis, but that was kind of a kick in the pants. But yeah, what if he does win the conference and they franchise tag him? That would be an interesting story for next year. But I think that you might find some value there. Let's move on to the next conference here, or the next division. I mean, AFC East: Patriots 7.5, Dolphins 9.5, Jets 9.5, Bills 10.5.
Yeah, if the AFC North is not the best division in football, I think it's the AFC East, and I do feel like some people are sleeping on the Patriots, or maybe I'm just living in the past here and still rating Bill Belichick higher than he is current day. I don't know. if Belichick was the only person on the planet who thought it was a good idea to put Matt Patricia and Joe Judge in charge of the offense last year, but man, that backfired. Nobody could have thought that was a good idea. That blew up in Belichick's face. I think Bill O'Brien's going to make a big difference in this offense and Mac Jones. I listened to Kirk Herbstreit of ESPN, I would say a few weeks ago, and he was talking about Mac Jones and how he's 1,000% in on Mac Jones being a Pro Bowl quarterback in the next 2 years. I've got a similar opinion on Jones. I don't need Kirk Herbstreit to say it. It's good to hear him say it as a guy who's a good quarterback evaluator. I think a lot of people are going to doubt Mac Jones at this point because he did look bad last year. But, hey, when you got Patricia and Judge as your offensive coaches, those guys are not offensive coaches. When they're running the offense, how's Mac Jones going to look good? He didn't have much receiving talent. Tight ends were underachieving. The line was not great. Of course, Mac Jones is not going to look that good. Patriots offense actually declined from 48 touchdowns in 2021 when Josh McDaniels was OC to 31 touchdowns last year. That's a major drop-off. I think Bill O'Brien's going to rebuild Mac Jones. You got Juju Smith-Schuster, Mike Gesicki at tight end. You got some targets out there that are going to help Mac Jones, and I think Bill O'Brien, just in general, is going to make a big difference. Now, the Patriots defense ranked 6th in rushing, 11th in scoring. They shut out the Lions. Despite most things going wrong, the Pats went 8-9. If O'Brien could get this offense back on track, I think this team goes at least 9-8. Now, it's a really tough division. But I'm not completely sold on the Dolphins and Tua. The Jets got a ridiculously hard schedule. If you break it down, Jets are going to be lucky to be 3-3 after 6 games or 4-4 after 8 games. I think the Patriots are going to be right there in the hunt. And I played them over 7.5, and I played the Patriots +5 as home dogs in week 1 against the Eagles. So that's kind of my take so far. Last year, I had a bunch of futures on the Buffalo Bills to win the Super Bowl, and that was really disappointing how the Bills fell apart and the run defense got steamrolled by the Bengals in the playoffs. And so it seems like not many people are talking about the Bills as compared to this time a year ago, and maybe that's a good thing for Buffalo. But that pretty much sums up right now what I've played in this division. I'm a little higher on the Patriots, I think, than most, but we'll see if that blows up in my face.
I mean, you have a great point. Belichick, let's just pretend and excuse them for the Patricia thing. You have to just be like, okay, everyone makes mistakes. But I've also always wondered if it was more Brady. No. I always wonder if it was more Belichick or Brady, and I'm leaning definitely Brady now. But at the same time, you have to remember Bill Belichick got some quarterbacks rich when Brady was hurt. He made the playoffs with what's his name? I forgot his name, and Jimmy Garoppolo, of course, too, who's not as good as people advertise. I
think back then, was it Matt Castle?
Yes, it was Matt.
You know what? And here's another thing I'm just going to add in quickly because you're talking as a more Brady, more Belichick. I hear this a lot. You can't forget how good those Patriots defenses were, especially when Brady was winning the early Super Bowls, right? So
yeah,
I'm still saying it's 50-50. Yeah, now when you look back at it now, you're saying, well, it was more Brady than Belichick because Belichick's starting to fade out. I think he's getting a little too egotistical, thinking he could walk on water here late in his career, doing a lot of stupid stuff like putting defensive coaches in charge of the offense. But the Patriots still had great defenses. They won a lot of those Super Bowls because they had great defenses. I'm still going to say it's like 50-50, right? Symbiotic relationship.
All right. Well, you're still at 50-50. I'm not, but we'll see if that changes. Dolphins under 9.5.
Okay.
They are just the sloppiest. What are you doing? You have Tua that got 3 concussions last year. I think one wasn't reported. He was the reason they didn't play him the rest of the year because he was 1 hit away from retirement. What's going to change this year? Like magically he's not concussion prone? And who's behind him? Skylar Thompson? Mike White? I mean, this is a disaster waiting to happen. When I say disaster, they spent a ton of money on guys like Tyreek Hill, the defense, and they're just going to let it all go by not protecting Tua and putting somebody competent in as backup. And it blows my mind. That's all I need to happen for this thing to go under 9.5. And I would consider an alt line total on that. The Bills, I think that Dayball was more important than we realized to this team. And they could start regressing a little bit more as well. So I'm not high in the Bills either. I don't like how they lost Tremaine Edmonds to the Bears and didn't really they kind of replaced him in the draft, but that's still a coin flip. You don't know if Simpson is going to be all that good yet. So that's my problem there. So totally get what you're saying there. Last one, the AFC West, Raiders 7.5, Broncos 8.5, Chargers 9.5, and Chiefs 11.5. Anything in this division?
Yeah, of course. Got something here. Actually, I previewed this division for the VSiN NFL betting guide too. I do it every year in the AFC West, but I like everything you said there about the AFC East, first of all, because I'm on the same page on the Dolphins. I have a lot of similar thoughts about the Bills. I'm going to throw this one parting thought at you on the Belichick-Brady debate.
Okay,
the last
brilliant.
Super Bowl that the Patriots won, number 6, they beat the Rams 13-3. That was all Belichick and his defense winning that. Brady was bad in that Super Bowl, right? You remember how bad he was in that 13-3 game, and that was all defense. So I'm saying I love Brady. Give him a ton of credit. He was a huge part. Those guys aren't going to win those Super Bowls without each other, and that's why I'm still saying.
Who was quarterbacking for the Rams? Who was quarterback for the Rams that day?
That was Jared Goff.
Okay. Yeah. Well, he got better. That's for sure. He's looking good.
Sean McVay and Jared Goff got schooled by Belichick. But what did Brady do in that game? What did he do in that game? He was terrible. All right, he completed one pass to Gronk at the end to help him clinch the game. But that's just my parting thought on that. I know a lot of people are leaning Brady with the way things have happened here in recent years. I fully understand that, but I still think Belichick and his defenses played a huge role in winning those Super Bowls. Patrick Mahomes, 27-3 record as a starter versus AFC West opponents. 11-0 against the Broncos, 9-1 against the Raiders, 7-2 against the Chargers. With Mahomes as a starting quarterback, the Chiefs' records have been 12-4, 12-4, 14-2, 12-5, 14-3. All right, so I know it's a square opinion, but I'm not going to say under this year. This is the year the Chiefs take a step back. A lot of people thought that was last year. If you go back a year, Kansas City was plus 175 to win this division. Now it's a minus number, about minus 160. That's how the favorites flipped here because these other teams have not closed the gap. So I'm not going to say under on the Chiefs. I do lean over on the Chargers. I think Kellen Moore is going to make a difference with this offense. The offensive coordinator is really kind of holding back Justin Herbert. And, the injuries to the receivers, Keenan Allen's, Mike Williams, those played a big role in it too. Those guys combined for only 8 touchdowns last year, Allen and Williams. They got to be better than that. They got to be on the field. Got to be available. A lot of injuries on defense. It feels like the Chargers are a lot like the Clippers and the Angels. They always look good on paper, and then they get snake bit by injuries, bad luck, poor coaching, and they underachieve. But I do lean over on the Chargers. I'm not sure what to make of the Broncos, even though I do think that Sean Payton's going to bring out the best in Russell Wilson. I expect a bounce back here from Wilson, who last year looked fat, old, slow. And this year I think he's in much better shape. And, Nathaniel Hackett was about as bad as it gets as a head coach and a guy running an offense. And with Sean Payton calling the shots here, I think it's going to be a huge, huge upgrade for the Broncos. So I don't have a future on the Broncos, but I do expect Russell Wilson to bounce back. The Raiders, to me, look like a fade. Sources I've got to cover the team say Jimmy Garoppolo's foot injury is more serious. And then they're kind of letting on. They don't know if he's going to be ready to start the season and don't know how much he's going to be able to play. Now, if he does play, that's still a bad defense. It's got a lot of holes in it. I've got a lot of questions about Josh McDaniels as a play caller. Josh Jacobs is unhappy now. He's franchise tagged, and he's not going to get a long-term deal. He's unhappy with the organization. He led the NFL in rushing. Devontae Adams came to Vegas because he wanted to play with Derek Carr. He's the real deal. At 100 receptions, 1,516 yards, and 14 TDs without Aaron Rodgers as his quarterback. But who's going to be the quarterback? Is it Brian Hoyer? Is it rookie Aiden O'Connell? I don't know, but I think the Raiders are in trouble here. We're seeing the betting market pointing under on this team. So I do like the Raiders under 7.5. The problem is now the juice is so high, you got to lay $1.80.
Yeah.
If you want to bet the Raiders under that number. But the defense ranked near the bottom of the league in all key categories last season. Only 6 interceptions, only 27 sacks, 26th in scoring. There's so many areas the Raiders need to address, and I think they've got a little bit better through the draft, and I've made some pretty good moves. The Pro Football Focus ranks the Raiders 25th in the NFL and the worst team in the division, and I got to tell you, I don't disagree with that. So that's kind of where I stand. I would love to see Justin Herbert and the Chargers put it together. I would love to see it happen. Just how much confidence do you have in the Chargers actually doing that? It seems like we've been talking about the sharp bettors always gravitate to the Chargers, right? It seems like every year it seems to be that way for the last 15 years or more. And they underachieve far more often than not. But, man, on paper, the Chargers look good.
Well, they remind me of the Falcons when all the sharp bettors were betting them because of EPA, but they just couldn't do it in the red zone. Yeah. It was just one of those weird just problems. And Staley's just hasn't been a good coach. He used to be super aggressive, and then the year he needed to be aggressive last year, he failed. He completely stopped being aggressive. Just made absolutely no sense for what he did. Yeah, I can't disagree with anything you said about the Raiders. Jimmy Garoppolo's got a lot of problems. Maybe he's spending a lot of time cashing in that Chicken Ranch promo that they offered him over there in Vegas. But the Chiefs, on the other hand, I think that the Chiefs could go under. And I almost feel the NFL adding the 17th game, Matt, and with the 17th game, it's almost becoming more NBA-like here with the NFL. And I think that it's a Super Bowl hangover year, but I think they're going to kind of come into the season. I don't think there's going to be a high propensity to compete super hard until towards the end. I got 11.5 at plus 120, and they can win 11 games and win this division still, Matt. But, when they came in with a tough offensive line switch, the Chiefs, it took them 7-8 games to gel. Was that 2 years ago? Mm-hmm. Now they lost Orlando Brown. They lost Andrew Wiley, 2 tackles there. They lost a bunch of guys on D, Frank Clark, Kalen Saunders, Charles Omenihu, safety Juwan Thorhill. There's just a lot of guys. I don't think they signed Carlos Dunlap yet. I don't think they're going to. They did replace him, but this just feels like one of those years that they're not going to cover the big spreads. They're just going to win the games. If they're ever a dog, they're going to destroy the team, And I think they get to 10 or 11 wins, and I'll cash my plus money on the 11.5 on the under because what you said, the Chargers look good. Denver can take a step forward here now that they actually have a competent coach. Maybe Russell Wilson's done being a diva. Let's hope. But I did take a shot at the under 11.5, and that doesn't mean they can't win the Super Bowl, Matt.
Right. So I don't necessarily disagree, but that's a tough way to make a living betting against Patrick Mahomes. I'd rather bet against him in individual games. Honestly, I'd rather take the points with the dogs. When I do bet against the Chiefs a lot, taking the points, but
it's good.
He finds a way to pull out the wins. I mean, there's no way the Chiefs should have beat the Raiders on that Monday night last year, right? The Raiders completely pissed away that game, and I keep waiting for this decline in the Chiefs where you can play them under the win total or to lose the division, and it hasn't happened yet. So hopefully for you, it happens this year. Don't bet on Russell Wilson ending his diva act because I don't think that's going to happen. But I do think he is going to play a lot better this year because Sean Payton's not going to put up, with that same BS. Payton's got a big contract. He's got all the power. And if Russell Wilson doesn't play well, Payton can pull the plug on him. And that's why I think the pressure is on Wilson to perform, and he knows it, and that's why he's getting in shape. His career is kind of on the line.
Absolutely, man. I'm going to root for the Chargers because I'm just so sick of seeing Justin Herbert falter with all that talent.
Yeah.
I like Mike Williams a lot. I think he's a fantastic player. He's an underrated wide receiver, in my opinion. Joey Bosa, just stay healthy for a little while, dude. And, they have some studs on defense. This team just needs to get it together, and Staley needs to mature a little bit, and they could be that team to finally cash those tickets for the sharp side, man. thanks so much for coming on. Love talking food with you. Love talking fast food. It was a blast talking all the NFL. I cannot wait to see if you're right about Belichick this year and all the other stuff that we talked about, my man. So where could our listeners and viewers get your great information and columns?
Yeah, I hope I'm right about a lot of that stuff too. Obviously, you're not going to be right about everything, but I feel good about a lot of these preseason opinions and bets, and we'll see how they work out. But I'm also fired up to eat lunch right now. We talked so much about food. I can't wait to go eat lunch. You can find me at vsin.com, vsin.com. We put a bunch of great content up there, and you can watch the shows. We're a 24/7 sports betting network, so we're going to crank it up. As far as I'm concerned, football season starts now. So we'll be doing a ton of football talk, NFL, college, and we're going in tonight to do a Friday night show and talk some British Open, but pretty much the football season's here. We're training camps open next week. Hall of Fame games right around the corner. And these slow weeks at the end of the summer, right? After the NBA finals, with not much going. We got past it. It's over. Now we're full steam football.
I'm in, man. I'm excited. I'm having a good baseball year, thank God. But man, I am ready for some football. I'm ready for some preseason. I always put out a massive coaching article on that as well. So it's I'm pumped up. It's been an absolute pleasure, Matt. I'll shoot you a text next month when I'm coming up. But once again, thanks again for coming on our show. Everyone out there, check out Matty if you don't already at Matt Youmans 24/7 on Twitter.
All right, you bet. Thanks.